Are you wondering how you can contribute to Funniest Thing?
Don't flip out. Go to patreon.com/funniest thing.
Whoa!
Oh!
I landed that. That would have been crazy.
Welcome to the Funniest Thing,
Yes.
where we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes.
Yes, it does.
I'm Darrell,
I'm Ed.
and we're broadcasting live from CHOBO Studios in...
Beautiful downtown Van Nuys.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed.
And today we have a wonderful show, no doubt.
No doubt about it.
What's today's episode?
Today's show is called Doubt Not with Beth Porter. When we are in doubt, we are on the fence. We are not going anywhere. Doubt poisons all action. Well, I don't know, so we don't do anything. We should meet life with a yes, an affirmative attitude. That's the faith the spiritual teachers throughout time are talking about. On this episode, Darrell and Ed focus on the fact that there's a force for good in the world, and when we are cooperating with that force for good, good things happen to us. And during the second segment, bright-eyed and bold Beth Porter kicks doubt out with today's reading, which is Zeal.
Sounded like you were going to say meeting.
Yeah, well, you've been at a lot of those. So listen, in the background, if you're on YouTube and you want to see what's in the background, if you're not on YouTube, go to YouTube and you will see find Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, and you will see original new promotional artwork by none other than my student Josue, and it's for Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. It has our names at the top. Very lifelike pictures of us are featured here. Darrell says, which one's you again?
Well, because he watches it, so he knows who's saying. This is Ed with his surfboard and his hair.
Okay.
And this is Darrell with his hat and no surfboard.
All right. Well, there you go. And then he put a nice happy face. So jump on the Facebook and take a look at that. Like and subscribe and share the show with everyone you know will benefit from it. Let's take a moment, and I think we should dedicate this show to Sir Charles Beagleman. I hope Beth doesn't mind, but we could talk about the great Beagleman a little later. But he was a great pooch, and we appreciate him, and we appreciate Beth coming on the show today. And Beth is amazing. She right now runs a music school called Music Junction. She formerly ran a rock and roll fantasy camp with Steven Tyler and Gene Simmons and all sorts of other colorful characters. So we'll check in with her during the second segment. It's kind of interesting on the way here. Darrell and I were talking about how Beth mentioned that she feels what we were calling God through her connection with nature. We could talk about that more later. But on the way here, I happened to be listening to a podcast with the fellow who runs, who started Patagonia. And he said the very same thing. He said, I'm not religious, but I am very spiritual, and it comes through my connection with nature. And he was saying how, like, if people really want to improve the world or save the world, it has to come through that, like, joyful connection.
Yeah.
Which is really what our show is all about, is this joyful connection with our own nature, with these principles that are always active within nature. And we find out that they're loving, abundant, joyful principles when we take the time to do a morning routine, check in with ourselves, read some inspired reading in the morning, and think affirmatively to get back into the truth of who we are. So I'm looking forward to the show.
Well, isn't that funny? Because just this morning across the street, I talked to our neighbor. I spoke with our neighbor, and we finally discovered what each of us does. Yes. And speaking about joy and the head of Patagonia saying the same things we say.
Yes.
So we're talking about this stuff. He's a professional psychiatrist. His wife is a therapist, I believe a psychologist. And we were talking, and he was fascinated listening to, he was just discovering what I do with the podcast and everything.
Yeah, because he asked you, "Are you a psychologist?" And you're like,
I said,
"No,
no.
I just learned this stuff in the service."
Yeah, I learned this stuff, positive psychology, and we had this great conversation. But we wrapped up the conversation and parted ways because it all got to the point of how joy and optimism is. I mean, and this is him telling me scientific facts.
Yes.
Scientifically proven how joy and optimism really is a healing force. He was also...
And the practice of meditation as well.
Said meditation, he says a lot of people think that meditation is just... And this is a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So hearing it from him is good news because it means it's being endorsed now.
Yeah.
As a healing, as a true medically confirmed healing modality. Thank you. So he's saying it does. People just think that they're calming their mind. It's soothing their nerves or whatever in the moment. And he says, but it's so much more than that. He goes, the science has proven it. When you're meditating, you're actually you're creating new neural pathways during the meditation that are forever changed and transforming you for the better. And then we wrapped up our conversation because it got to joy, and I told him about Mike Urton, and he was telling me about how he starts going, he goes, yeah, smile. People don't realize how a smile really is beneficial.
Right.
You smile at another person, it really changes the chemistry. And he said, when I worked in Israel, I'm assuming he's Israeli because he was telling me about it. He did a lot of work in Israel, and he was a long-time worker as a student at the VA. So we were talking about, but
the same VA you go to?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we wrapped it up with he said on the topic of how joy is the solution.
Right.
And optimism is the solution. He even said how they even have clinical studies about how an optimistic attitude in surgery, it's proven it dictates the recovery.
Right.
A successful recovery or a slower, even unsuccessful recovery.
Right.
Can be directly linked to the pessimism or optimism.
Yes.
Of the mind, in the mind of the patient.
Right.
And I would even say in the mind of the doctor as well. But we wrapped up, he said in Israel, there's a group of Orthodox Jews, and their whole thing is joy, like it says, joy is the strength of the Lord. That joy is the antidote for all the ills. And he goes, they go around singing and laughing and joking and smiling. And I said, send them across the street whenever they're in town.
Yeah.
So it really is ironic how we have these experiences that coincide perfectly with the show right before the show.
I know. Another thing the guy from what's it called? Patagonia said was that his business is purpose-driven, not profit-driven. And he goes, there's a lot of amazing things he's done with regards to selling the company and what they're doing with like the excess profits, where they go and all this stuff. And so he does put his money where his mouth is. And he's like us. He doesn't do it. He says, I don't hang out with businessmen. I don't consider myself a businessman. He kind of stumbled into it, but he said it was purpose-driven and not profit-driven, the business. And he was saying how like this whole world could change. Another thing he said is if capitalism was more quality-driven instead of just quantity, if it was really focused more on... so he's very optimistic in a lot of ways about simple things that could shift. He said there was a man from the United States who went to Japan. I forgot what year it was. I think after World War II. And they were starting to get into just... selling really cheaply made, poorly designed products.
Yes, that was made in Japan. It was the big joke when I was a kid.
And so they were going down that road, but this guy from the United States went over and convinced them to switch over to quality driven. And now it's like you can rest assured pretty much when you get things from Japan.
It's quality.
And he was saying it was one guy who went over there and met with their leaders and inspired them, and they changed their whole culture as a result. This whole thing got me thinking about our show because we're very purpose-driven, and sometimes we get stumbled like, should we be more profit-driven? But we don't get very far because it's so not what drives us. But hearing him it just made me realize that our show is completely purpose-driven. So we appreciate everyone out there at patreon.com/funniest thing who's contributing, because it has a purpose. People listen to this show.
They benefit
They
from
improve,
it.
yeah, and they improve the quality of their thinking, the quality of their lives, the quality of their relationships.
Yes.
So if you're not on there yet, hop on. For as little as $3, there's already a button there for you that you can contribute monthly. But remember, this is what this world needs, is to improve the quality of what's going on, the quality of thinking. Not just, oh, we got 10 million viewers, but if it's 10 million viewers, but you're filling their heads with more poor quality thinking, this world needs quality, higher quality of thinking, and that's what we're providing, and that's what you're providing by participating and coming on the show and sharing the show. So, and then we're going to be off next week. Is that right, Indy? Next week?
Yes, next week we're off.
Yeah,
Okay,
so we'll be off, but we will be doing our Patreon Zoom
Prosperity
workshop. Yeah, class
on Tuesday.
On Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific.
So now's a good time, if you haven't already jumped on the Patreon, to come and be partners with us in this adventure, where we're sharing this stuff so more and more people can learn about it and find these books.
Yeah,
because it all goes to help us and help you share this message.
Yes.
So the reason we're saying that is because if you're on Patreon, then you'll have access to, you won't be missing a show, and you'll be able to have access to all the recordings of our prosperity workshop that we do on Tuesdays.
Right. And real tithing is all, for what the way we understand, is all about sharing with the things that inspire you.
Yes.
And then it's almost like a trick, though, because as we share it, we get so much back in return, because when we're constricted and so worried about money and that we don't share it generously, it cuts off the circulation of that which comes to us. Whereas when we're giving it generously, I mean, think about how good it feels, instead of being the one who's begging people for money, to be someone who's sharing it with someone else so that they can prosper, especially if you're feeding it into something that is really healthy and growing. And, so thank you for everyone who's part of it, and jump on patreon.com/funniest thing to be a part of it. We appreciate you. You want to tell people about the Funniest Thing Club?
Yeah, because you might go, oh, well, how else can I share this stuff? And you're probably already doing it by being an example of it, because the more we listen to this stuff, the more we tend to implement it in our lives. It just happens, because what is it? Where you give your attention, where attention goes, energy flows. What's held in mind produces after its kind.
Right.
So if you're filling your heads with this stuff, you're probably a member of the Funniest Thing Club, which is we're a group of truth enthusiasts who live each day as ambassadors of God's love. As we consciously radiate love, we perform everyday miracles and experience better than expected outcomes. And that's what that psychiatrist was talking to me about today. He said, a smile does all. He goes, a lot of people think it's all about mean mugging and stuff. And we had the best conversation about this. So if you're already living this way, or strive to, then you may consider yourself a member. We motivate one another by simply sharing how miracles occurred naturally in our circumstances as the result of living lovingly and expectantly. And that's what today's topic is about. It's about kicking doubt out and allowing our natural tendency to be hopeful and expectant to bubble up to the surface.
Yes. And I mentioned a book called Black Elk Speaks recently that I read in college, which was written by this Lakota Sioux man who had a vision, and it became like a widespread thing. And one of the things that he always referred to about like what was kind of plaguing,
I can't believe that's his name. You know why? Because my favorite Sioux Indian is Joe Black Fox.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, he was part of Buffalo Bills.
Oh, wow.
Oh man, I gotta send you a picture of him. I'll send a picture to Indy so he could post it.
So Black Elk, the thing he said was that's coming to mind now, and it's funny because I've added him to my panel of inspired beings when I sit and meditate sometimes, was that it's the shadow of doubt that's been cast across the land, the shadow caused by doubt. And it leads to so many of the things that plague our world. And, like the guy from Patagonia was saying, all they do is find people who want to work for them for the right reason, make sure that they're trained, and then let them go.
Yeah.
He says, I don't micromanage. He said, I could leave my company for 6 months, come back, and it's still going to be running. He said, I don't even know how much we made last year. I just know that if we do these things this way, it will always work. And that's what's beautiful about these spiritual principles, is that they alleviate doubt. And doubt is what plagues. It brings fear and worry. It brings micromanaging. It brings overlooking things that are working because maybe, how do I know it's going to work? How do I know it's going to work again? Even when good comes to us, if we're in a state of doubt, we doubt it so much that we cut it off before it has a chance to really grow and spread and blossom.
Doubt. Let it all out.
Yeah, so by the way, we got a postcard from Kirky. If you want to send us something, go to Funniest Thing, P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232. So this is a beautiful little postcard. On the front it says...
Not suitable for framing.
But it does say, I love you and I love you too. These interesting Darrell and Ed characters. You can check us out on YouTube to find out what it looks like. It says...
To see what we're wearing.
Here's a great quote. If others are continually annoying you with criticism, do not fight back or run away. Instead, be grateful for them. They are your best teachers, not because they are correct in your fault finding, but because they are serving as a mirror of your own internal critic. They have come to show you how hard you are on yourself, so you can begin to love yourself and heal a pattern of internal self-abuse. Criticism cannot disturb you unless you agree with it. And that was a quote. Do you know who that's a quote from?
Does it say
Alan Cohen. It's written here in fancy letters. So thank you, Kirky. But that's so true. I mean, even like Fazaro, like you're like the feisty texter. And then when I'm in a good space, it's like all funny and like I laugh. But if I'm doubting myself, I'm going, he's all of a sudden the things that you're normally joking about seem real. And it's so absurd that when I see you again, you're like, how did you think that was real? And I'm going, I have no idea. But it's just, especially through texts and emails. Well,
because that's where because the text, a lot of us think, oh, the text, I could tell he's being nasty. But it really is me applying to like you're saying, texts really are a mirror of how I am feeling.
Yeah, because there's no person there.
That's right. And there's no vibe happening.
All it is literally some weird screen with dots and stuff, and then our brain takes that and turns that into someone saying something to us. So there's so much, it goes right into our subconscious, and whatever we're feeling, we're going to project that on there. Or if we're not grounded, we'll project that on. If we're not feeling empowered, it's very easy to project stuff on there.
Well, that's why it's good to have a friend to share it with before you reply. That's what, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, especially if it's something coming from a business or work. It's always good to have a nice, a wife or a friend.
Yeah, 100%. Especially if it's triggering you.
Who will go, wait, no, they're not saying that at all. And I'll go, oh, good.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Let's just get rid of, let's just share a bit of mail, and then we'll get to the reading. So Grace Deathridge commented on the unlimited power of childlike faith with Stephen Bruni, which is our last episode. She said, a great episode, reminding me to be vigilant or stay awake to our thinking. I loved hearing about little Eleanor, the blind cat, and seeing the pictures of her too. Amazing. Thank you, funniest thing. Well, thank you, Grace Deathridge. Nancy Norman, I think that she's texted us. We're on the most amazing text thread with some of the most amazing New Thought ministers. And, it's such an honor. And Nancy Norman said, she's from unityjoyoflife.org. Every Thursday you can attend her free Infinite Prosperity class. Indy's there, Darrell's there, I'm there.
Stephen Tom Thorpe.
Yeah, that's at Pacific time. It's 4 p.m. Pacific or 4 a.m. Pacific or 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. if you're on the East Coast. So,
I was going to say, and let the lady listeners know, Rod Schweitzer is also on there with us.
That's right. Yeah, so Nancy Norman said, hey, Darrell and Ed, just finished listening to your fabulous podcast and learned that you were both celebrating your birthdays. That was last week. So I want to wish you both magnificent days of celebrating your birth. I'm so grateful that you chose to be born at this time in history as you are bringing the light to thousands. And I am so happy that you are a part of my beautiful life. Love the show, and it reminded me, if you argue for your limitations, you got them. So I am arguing for my talents, gifts, and magnificence. Great show. Your ministry is amazing. Thank you, Nancy. Even our show, if we're not in the right state of mind to see, because we're not basing it off of external things like how many viewers, we're basing it on the quality of the show and how does it feel and what are we bringing to it. But if we slip into self-doubt and despair, we can forget. And so many things in my life I've walked away from or trampled because I didn't realize how amazing they were.
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't have these tools in the past to do this mental house clean, to let go of doubt and see and bless and magnify the good rather than run away from what I fear. So let's thank Chief Engineer Jeff Comfort out in Kansas City, Kansas, because each week
he takes us
right into the comfort zone. Man, Jeff had a tree land on his... Oh, wait, there's a jet that flew by. Oh, yeah, a tree that fell onto his house. So we're sending love for quick divine order to restore everything back to a prosperous state over there, a healthy and whole state.
And he put the new roof on his house himself, remember?
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, my God. Well, we love you, Jeff. We're sending love to you. Indy out here, CHOBO Studios, CHOBOstudios.com. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. My girlfriend's mom just had a tree fall on her house out in Michigan.
Wow.
Crazy time. Yeah.
Are you talking about Heather Nelson?
Heather Nelson. She's on the Infinite Prosperity Zoom class on every Thursday.
Yeah, and thanks to Darrell, she was wearing a cowboy hat.
What can I say? I'm a trendsetter.
Yeah, I feel a little bit of credit in this because the day when you got the double nose from Stephen Tom Thorpe, I was like, you got to get this hat.
What's the double nose?
Remember we sent out, not your nose.
Oh,
your
yeah.
nose is fine. The double nose.
Is that what they're calling it now?
Okay.
Like double nose? Okay.
Okay, so you want to read? Or what do you want to do?
We got some great readings. These readings come from...
Double nose.
I got the double nose, ladies and gentlemen.
That was the day that when you bought the hat and both your wife and Stephen Tom Thorpe gave it a no via text, but I was like, dude, come on, that thing's regal. You're going to bring joy to the world, and sure enough, you have.
Okay. So, this book, we mentioned it like a week or... I think it was, last week's episode. It's the one I got at an airport, one of those airport bookstores that looked easy to read. And I figured, okay, I can't go wrong with that title. It'll be something I don't really have to think too much as I'm on the plane or waiting while I was traveling.
Well, it sounds like a very Fazaro title. Believe You Can.
It's a great little book. Believe You Can, The Power of a Positive Attitude by John Mason. So in the chapter, Don't Build a Case Against Yourself, which is really doubting is building a case against ourselves, it says, if you doubt yourself, listen to Alexander Dumas. A person who doubts himself is like a man who enlists in the ranks of his enemy and bears arms against himself. Tim Redmond cautions, do not commit treason against your own life and purpose. That's what doubt does to me.
Yeah.
It starts picking away and going, oh, what's the use? What's the point? And then here's some more.
Wait, pause right there. Just want to say one thing, which is our intuition or inspired ideas come through us. So if we're doubting the receiving tower, which is who we actually are, then this has happened to me so many times where intuitively I knew something, but then my insecurities took over and I like self-sabotaged or I got into stuff. If I had just stayed poised and let things work themselves out, then that intuitive knowing I had always comes to pass. A long time ago when I was teaching, there was a kid who was having trouble. He was in a classroom with this teacher who was always kind of stern and mad, and he's on the spectrum, autism. So he internalized her emotional state. Like he always thought she was mad at him.
Right.
So I was walking through the school, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw another 5th grade classroom, and I felt this wonderful, calm energy come out. I go, that's the room where he belongs. And at that point, I was pretty new to the district, so I wasn't like confidently saying things all the time. But like 2 months later, he ended up getting moved into that class, and it went smoothly. And it was just a teaching for me, like a lesson for me, like, wow, my intuition
was correct.
Just whispered that in my ear when I walked by. So it's so important that we don't doubt ourselves, otherwise we're going to miss out on these good ideas.
Yeah, I like what you said, because use that tool that we're doubting the receiving antenna, we got to realize that's what I'm doubting, not the inspired idea. The inspired idea is legit.
Yeah.
But now I'm like going, oh no, there must be something wrong with this
right.
tower. This can't, like, this is too good to be true.
Right.
or I have no business receiving this, or saying anything.
Right.
We're cursing the tower, and it goes along with these next few readings. You may succeed if nobody else believes in you, but you'll never succeed if you don't believe in yourself. And the good news is, Zig Ziglar observes, what you picture in your mind will go to work to accomplish. When you change your pictures, you automatically change your performance. Whatever you attach consistently to the words I am, you will become. And to wrap it up, this is from Calvin Coolidge. He was a president of the United States. And it's ironic because he was a president during the time when these ideas, this new philosophy of approaching spirituality, which really wasn't new. It was just kind of like, it got kind of pushed to the side. It was actually what our country was founded on, were these open-minded ideas on spirituality. It was not a Christian. The founding fathers were not Christian at all. If anything, they were anti-religious guys.
Right.
And they believed more as deists, or like Emerson, than they did, you know what I mean, in a
what's
specific.
deist mean again?
It means the underlying good for, like, the force behind all nature, all life.
Yes.
And it's a harmonious, but they didn't really go further with, wait a minute, can we really tap into this and utilize it, like we learned later on. So Calvin Coolidge said during his presidency, we do not need more intellectual power. We need more spiritual power. We do not need more things that are seen. We need more of the things that are unseen. And what is he talking about? Well, it comes right here to clarify what he means by that. This is from a book called 24 Hours a Day. It's by Hazel, and it's popular in 12-step groups. And if you have the book, it's from July 13. And this is what Calvin Coolidge is talking about, the unseen. Be expectant. Constantly expect better things. That's why he's saying not more things intellectual or seen, but let's go beyond. Constantly expect better things. Believe that what God has in store for you is better than anything you ever had before. The way to grow old happily is to expect better things right up to the end of your life, and even beyond that. A good life is a growing, expanding life with ever-widening horizons, an ever greater circle of friends and acquaintances, and an ever greater opportunity for usefulness. And the affirmation is, I may await with complete faith, which is joyful expectancy, for the next good thing in store for me.
Yeah.
I always keep an expectant attitude towards life. And this goes right back to what the psychiatrist was telling me, that scientific evidence has proven in the case of not just mental health, but physical recovery. Not just mental recovery or a healthy state of mind, or helping, he worked with, he was at the VA, he was working with a lot of PTSD, that it's scientifically proven that joy and faith, and if you have a problem with the word faith, it simply means joyful expectancy.
Yeah.
This morning I wrote, because, people go, you got to remain humble, and humble got such a crummy idea in my head because of the people that promote humility. Yeah. They were really promoting martyrdom, but they were calling it humility.
Right.
So that's what I thought. I don't want to be humble because it's, my life, that's okay. I'm just suffering, but that means it's good. That's not what it means at all. So I wrote for a note from myself, expecting miracles is the ultimate act of humility. That's a note I wrote to myself.
Yeah.
Because it really is.
It is.
Because I'm not believing in me making things. I just have this general foundation of underlying foundation that all things will come together for good.
Yeah. Yeah, then when
we get evidence of it.
we become the receiving tower.
Yes.
And then we become luminous. Our light, our energy becomes luminous, and then we become charismatic and influential. And even if people don't even note what we've done, we get to witness miracles happen all the time. I see it all the time in my work with children. Mary Kupferle from Sue Hodgson wrote, she sent us a quote from Mary Kupferle, "Trust in the goodness of God. There's nothing to fear. I refuse to fear. Greater is the power of God that is in me than anything which is in the world. My prayer is answered. A great feeling of love begins to overwhelm me. I thank God for the ability to choose to believe in the best. It's a constant miracle-working prayer in my life." What if we change it with love, like you suggested last week? I'm going to change the word God to love. Let's see what happens. There's nothing to fear. I refuse to fear. Greater is the power of love that is in me than anything which is in the world. My prayer is answered. A great feeling of love begins to overwhelm me. I thank love for the ability to choose to believe in the best. It's a constant miracle-working prayer in my life.
I'm telling you, that's a game changer for me.
Yeah, me
Substituting, because we totally understand if a lot of our listeners, like ourselves, sometimes these words got terrible connotations.
That's right.
From some of the worst representatives.
That's right.
But thank goodness for us, there's synonyms for these words,
right,
that are beneficial for me and Ed to use.
Yeah.
And if you go, well, how can you say God? Well, it's even in biblical text. God is love. So try it. Substitute the word God wherever you see it with the word love.
Yeah.
And substitute the word faith, which also can give people the willies. It did me. In the beginning, because I didn't quite understand what they meant. I never knew it as a verb. I thought
For me, it was an external thing.
Yes.
The faith.
Yes.
People, you had to believe in Catholicism. It was the faith.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you could substitute it with joyful expectancy. And when you read these things, anywhere you see those words replacing God with love or faith with joyful expectancy, you'll be amazed not only how it still makes total sense, but it might even give it the oomph that's been missing for you. It'll definitely eradicate the what's when we
the resistance,
the prejudice you have against these words, which is totally understandable.
Yeah. Then after a while of using the words I want, I often come back to the original word and realize, wow, the original people who used this, they didn't. It got co-opted over time.
Yes.
It got twisted. And then I'll often go back and use the original word without any problem because I've liberated myself from the misunderstanding of it. And because the word God, I know the is a sound of creation. That in the middle of it. Yeah. So a lot of times these words actually did have a spiritual vibratory meaning, and then they got twisted, and there was someone who was angry because the same thing looked at through the lens of fear gets the opposite meaning. Yeah. Always. If it's looked at through the lens of doubt and fear, it will have the opposite meaning. Instead of God being something that liberates and includes, it becomes something that condemns, and punishes, excludes, and separates, and excludes. And it's just ignorance. It's just like the fact that so much doubt and this naysaying, negativity, pessimism has become so normalized that people think that's just how we look at things. No. That's a choice. And that's why we do the show too, is to remind ourselves and each other that it's always a choice. And we have this internal thing, which is our feelings, that let us know if it's true or not for us.
I can't believe you used the word ignore and ignorance about it, and you said it's a choice, because ignorance, the root of ignorance is to ignore. Mm-hmm. That's what ignorance is. We're choosing to ignore. We're choosing to not to. I'm refusing to open my mind. Yeah. Ignorance is choosing to ignore. Also, what helped me early on with this, because I had the same, I don't know about God. And a guy said, you know that God you have a problem with? Well, that's not the God we're talking about. Yeah. And I was like, really? Like you could have other... it's a game changer. So even you folks who are listening... that God that you have the problem with, that's not the one that Darrell and Ed are talking about.
And then, I like you say, ignorance, because there's no one who doesn't have the capacity to know and see the truth. No one. So anyone who's indulging in this sort of like anger-based fear, they are ignoring a deeper sense within themselves.
Yeah.
When they're alone with themselves, there's somewhere inside them where they know this to be true. And this is why it's so important for us as people who connect with the truth, which is through meditation, some sort of meditation, whether it's in nature or sitting, or because when we actually, every time I directly connect with my divinity, I don't have any questions. I don't have any doubt. There's nothing to doubt. It's like Buddha when they said, "Are you a god?" And this is like a bridge version of the quote or whatever.
Yeah.
He just said, "No, I'm awake," and that's how it feels. We meditate.
Yeah.
We wake up to our divinity. All these problems, they dissolve and disappear because they were never real in the first place. So we don't want to get sucked into this world where we're fighting with the people who are ignorant, because it's up to them to see the truth. And the more we fight with their ignorance, the more they double down and dig into it. But if we sit in our own power, and some of the things have been happening in my life where I've seen this, and hold that space of knowing, it'll actually improve the chance that those people will wake up as well, because no one can hide from the light if we're willing to hold the light.
Well, I know someone's awake. Indy's downing those Red Bulls like I used to. Shots of 151 rum. So I guess we're ready to wrap this segment up. What do you say?
Coming up next.
Yes!
Bright-eyed and bold, Beth Porter kicks doubt out of our minds with today's reading, Zeal. Thank you for listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, right here from CHOBO Studios.
I guess I'm bringing us back, folks.
I hope so.
The second half of this episode, Doubt Not, with Beth Porter.
Beth, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm happy to be here. You guys are definitely bringing my vibe up.
Oh, good.
And I appreciate it. It's nice to be in a really positive, loving space when, I shared with you guys that yesterday my 15-year-old Charlie needed to complete his life, and I had to do it. And so I'm very raw and, sad and filled with love of him. And but, I was like, oh, I'm going to go and, be on a podcast and have a chat. And then I thought it's kind of a blessing. So, because we were postponing this, trying to find a date, and somehow this date worked out to be the one. So, but yeah, I'm definitely like a little slower and not as present, but I think because I'm more internal right now. I'm just like, you heal, like you just got hit hard with something.
Man,
my pal for 15 years, like going to the beach and going to the park and going traveling and everywhere. And like, even when he got older, I took him everywhere, and I had this little sling and I carried him, and he's just a sweet, beautiful boy. And he loved everybody, and he charmed everyone. So I could always bring him everywhere. So it was, it's interesting to wake up this morning and be like, today's the first day, the real first day without him. He's not like at a dog sitter or, or whatever. And I feel different in the world. It's interesting, So I have, when you deal with death, I think you change. Like I lost both my parents 4 months apart, probably about 8 years ago. And I was a different person then too. My parents aren't in the world, so now that family's gone, and my little four-legged family guy is gone. So that's how I'm doing today. But I'm good. I'm definitely good. I'm better than I thought I would be. I thought my life was, as I knew it was over, which it is newly. And then I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about with you guys, and I did. I went through. So this is a good topic because I went through a lot of doubt. Trying to figure out when the right time was to let him go.
That's always tough. What's his full name? Charlie's full name?
Sir Charles Beagleman. He is royalty. I made him royalty, and he's a beagle and a miniature pinscher. So we put the beagle and the min together, so it made him. I think he's called a min pin. So he's Beagleman, Sir Charles Beagleman, and he's
what a sweetheart.
He's a gorgeous boy. I think we have a picture of him.
Yeah, he's
been on the screen. Yep.
Oh, he has? Okay, great. Those eyes are just, beautiful. But when they leave, like the moment he left, it was just like and everything changed about him. Like that's not my Charlie.
Yeah, I know.
I feel you. Yeah, I said goodbye to Romeo Ducky, a couple of years ago, and same thing. It's the first time I'd ever been with my friend who, like a animal friend, furry friend, excuse me. I hear what you're saying. But I noticed even with my grandfather when I was 15, that's the thing that actually, I think a lot of these experiences have propelled my spiritual growth into this recognition that whatever's going on, like there's us. I don't even say a part of us, that it leaves this body.
Yeah.
And I've seen that many, many times. I was with my grandmother as well when she passed, and she was amazing because she was looking at the corner of the room, and she couldn't speak because of the breathing thing, and she was definitely aware of something there, like positive, like some kind of interaction happening, and she got younger and younger. She was 88 when she died, and she looked like pictures of her when she was 18 when she, like, all the worry and the fear and the doubt, her face got so young and her eyes turned just crystal blue, and it was like, whoa, that's the same Nan that I'd seen in pictures when she got married. So there's something powerful about it, because I think it's really allowed me to accept and recognize that I'm in this thing for some amount of time that's not going to be forever.
Yeah.
And the more now, I just turned 49. The more I get, the longer I live, the more I'm just like, have fun doing whatever that thing was I chose to come here to do, or I feel like doing now. Do that thing, and like bring joy and love with it, without doubt, because it changes everything. It really does change everything. When we were on the break, we love this book, The Oh Shit Factor by Darrell John Polsky. He wrote some great books. Love is Letting Go of Fear. Say Goodbye to Guilt.
He also created the Center for Attitudinal Healing, and he's won numerous awards for his work with children with terminal illness.
Yes.
Using the change of attitude and the power of love.
And a sense of humor.
Yes.
I mean, and so these things are important. And so I just happened to open this book on the break. I brought it with me for some reason this morning.
It's funny because I packed that one too to bring with us today. And I thought, I don't know why I'm bringing this. And now here it is.
This is kind of bringing it all full circle. And he says, in the Hawaiian language, there's a word that says na'au. It's N-A'-A-U, pronounced na'au.
Na'au.
Yeah. Is the word for gut. Using Western lingo, the na'au would be in the central powerhouse of our physical, mental, and spiritual being, the indwelling hub of the circle of life experience and the home of all inner knowing. Isn't that amazing? Not up here.
Yeah, in the
more in here.
Yeah.
It is also the source of wisdom from which the most astute decisions are made. And I'm just going to skip ahead to this part where he says, part of our challenge is that we are used to making decisions based only on our thinking. So we're only using half of our decision-making resources. On top of that, our minds tend to become conflicted. We may recall previous decisions that didn't turn out the way we wanted. Fear comes into play because we don't want to make another mistake. Many of us assume that our lives are littered with such mistakes, and so we act from the mental state of conflict, and the results usually reflect this. We may find that we get better results, however, if we learn to respect our gut feelings, which are closely tied to our heart feelings.
That's, that's like such a perfect, you guys are just like really connected. That's like such a perfect reading. Like there's so many, like, trying to figure out this little guy's life and completing it, like I've really been, the topic's doubt, and I went through so much doubt. My friends have been through so much with me with this, because I see this little creature as alive. And, you know, he got sick once and then he got better, and he got sick and he got better. And now he's at a place where he's not going to get better. But I'm still seeing him like he's going to get better and it's going to be fine. And I'm like, and I'm going through this, and I am like, no, he's going to get better. And my friends are, all of them, everybody, strangers, people are telling me, you know, it's time, you've got to let him go. This guy, you know, he's emaciated, he was skin and bones, and he really had a hard time breathing. And I couldn't make this decision. I've been tortured I think one of the reasons I'm so exhausted is because I've been tortured for the last month about like, what am I going to do? I can't let him go. But it's a couple things. Like, one, I don't want anything to change. What's my life going to be without him? So there's a selfish part of it. And I still feel like I need to have this change, this feeling. Everybody says he's going to let you know, and I'm going to have this, oh, okay, it's time to let him go. And I never had that. I didn't have it. And I was just like waiting for that moment. And I was blinded by this past experience, my mind. I think I'm just saying is my mind. And because I was in so much worry and like, he's fine and he's going to make it, and I just was in my head, I couldn't get connected to that part where I was like, really check in with him, really what's going on. I was with some people 3 weeks ago who know him from a long time ago, and we were going to do an event, and they were going to their family was going to watch Charlie for me, because Charlie's usually a very easy dog to watch, but they had seen him walking around in the house and said, you know, I don't think we can actually watch him. You know, he needs more care than we can do. And I couldn't see that. I couldn't connect.
Right.
I was just disconnected from and you know, I just was disconnected. And then I had to like take my intellect to get me reconnected, go back to Mother Nature and faith and the universe and go, okay, there's a cycle of life. He's 15. This is not like he's a brand new puppy, and he's, you know, so I had to kind of like mentally get myself, use my brain to get back to the connection. So it's not just an energetic, intuitive feeling. You do need your brains to do it. So I don't know if I kind of went off on a tangent there.
No, this is perfect.
Yeah, I like the way that you're talking about and processing something that's happening in real time. So you're actually, I'm sure there's plenty of listeners and viewers who can actually directly relate. I mean, I can directly relate. And, you know, we read recently someone who wrote How to Think Big, right? Is that what it's called? The David Schwartz one?
Yes. What was it? The Power of Thinking Big?
And whatever the case was, he talked about the need to like mechanically use our brain sometimes to plug in, whether it's through
like
writing.
a backdoor cheat.
Yes.
We used, I mean, that's kind of what the show's all about. I think for so long, and I think there's many people who are like, oh, I'm not like an indigenous person who was raised in the woods. I can never be fully attuned, or I'm not a monk, so I can't. But we can use our brain to mechanically, like you said, backdoor, whatever it is, to get ourselves, trick our intellect back into harmony, because it's like a little guy who runs around out of fear and goes, I'm in control, or woman, or whatever it is, I'm in control. And we have to be the loving parent. Like if I let some of my students run the show, they're going to be like, I'm the one who's teaching. And if I get tricked, I start almost like answering to them. I start following them around, even inadvertently. But if I just instead of taking a step forward, take a step back and go, no. Like I am the teacher. The kids, in all the other kids, if I step back, they'll go, oh, this guy, you know, they'll step back. But if I step forward, then I'm telling them this person's, like they are looking to me, and our intellect looks to us. But it won't tell us that sometimes. It'll tell us, no, I'm in control, I'm in control. But we have to remember our power, and from there, do something to get it back on track. Like Darrell calls it, a firm and loving grandmother or a parent.
I have to treat myself. The higher me is really me using my intellect to connect me back to me. So I often call it, you know, when I catch myself grumbling or doubting, I have to be a firm but loving, like, grandmother to myself and say, no, Darrell, it's going to be okay. Calm down. Let's just do this, and you know this will make you feel better. And then all of a sudden, the two parts start working together again. but I know what you mean. And you know what I love that you said? I was disconnected. That is so much better than the negative word that's often used in that place, but I don't believe it to be as an accurate, comforting, and loving approach to myself. And it's saying I was in denial. No, because that's almost like an abusive word. I was in denial. Like I'm choosing not to want to love this animal or whatever. No, I was disconnected. I was letting this, it's so much more accurate. I was letting the fearful part of my reasoning mind to dominate so much that I was forgetting I have this whole other part, and they need to work together as a team.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is, even, in addiction. It's not, because the real definition of denial really goes back to reconnecting, because the real definition is, I'm denying a part of me. I'm denying the truth. Or I know the truth and I desperately don't want to believe it. That's more accurate. But the way you used I was disconnected is so much, is a much more healthier way to look at this, because it allows me to quickly reach out to the remedy, which it allows me to, because to say I'm just in denial, I'm like kind of locking myself into up here. But by saying, okay, I'm disconnected, that's the part of me, even if I'm not consciously saying I'm disconnected, that's the part of me that knows I'm disconnected, and I need to bring the loving real me into the equation to say, back up, step back, and remember, everything's going to be okay.
And find a way to reconnect.
Yes! It's so good.
I think what you're pointing to, and I think we were, during the break, we mentioned something like this, is that really identifying what's going on in a way that's not just a quick word.
Yeah.
Like denial, right?
Yeah.
And like what we were saying, something like it's not the God that we're talking about.
Yeah.
The definition of the God that we're talking about, or the definition of faith that you have a problem with.
Yeah.
It's really really getting the words clear of what is going on, so you can really get not just a quick soundbite, which we're used to and we're trained in the world to be, and slowing down, reconnecting, connecting to nature, connecting to what is, because I was coming here with you guys, it made me go, okay, so there was, I think it was a week ago that you reached out to me to be like, hey, remember you're coming here. And I was like, okay, I need to check in. What is faith? Like, I'm not using faith. I'm not using any of those tools, and which also leads to surrounding yourself with people that are really powerful and have the mindset of what you want, because literally every one of my friends, even though I was like, no, you guys are like so Anastasia, who you guys had a couple weeks ago on, she's been just my deepest angel. Like I've been to the vet 3 times and I left. I couldn't do it. I tried to do it on my own. And she texted me and she's like, okay, well, if you can't do it, then go to the VHC and you could go to the emergency vet and you could do it this way. He's suffering. And I felt like she was like pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. And I was just like, I was getting mad at her. Mm-hmm. And then I realized yesterday, and how you were talking, you mentioned this, Darrell, that my version of what she was doing was this, she's pushing me and she's like, you're torturing your dog and there's all these other resources you could do. And she was being pushy and bossy. And then I told her about it and she's like, oh my God, I feel so bad. And I'm like, no, that's my version of what was going on.
Yeah.
And what she was really doing, she thought that they couldn't take me and that I needed to do it and that they weren't available. So she's like, oh, well, maybe we need to go somewhere else. And I had all this anger and this upset, and I really had to connect, work it out myself to get that I wasn't mad at her, because I could still be mad at her and be like, fine, she made me do it. Now I've got this resentment. But I was working, this was the knot that was having me be stuck and numb and not able to let this poor little boy who was suffering, could not breathe, and was in pain. The minute I saw them let him go, I really realized how deep his pain was, and that my process was stopping him from having his natural process of life go through, and I had to let go. And you were talking about your grandma, and I think the whole process of everything, and actually seeing him pass. I'm not a complete wreck. I'm exhausted from what I put myself through prior to, but now because I saw him pass and I know it's complete, I saw my mom pass, I know it's complete, and I have the knowing of the cycle of life and Mother Nature and how, the winter comes and then the spring comes and then the summer comes, and that's all the cycle of life. It's just been, I think what the gift is of right now is that I'm having the integration of the process of this love that I got to have for 15 years with this beautiful creature of nature, and processing it. We don't take the time to process it. You get one day, you take a day off, you're like, I need a day, and then you go back to work, you go back to your life, and you go back, and then there's this wound that's in there that needs to just have some love and some time and some processing. And by sharing it with other people, because I know you guys and your listeners here, there's nothing unique about us in our experiences, that we're connected to people. People come into our lives and then they pass, or they leave, or they get sick, or they're happy, or you have babies. There's all those things. We all have them. And we have to process it, because then we're walking around wounded, and then we're jerks to each other, and it's just like, and then it creates this disconnection, and then you're in doubt, and you're not able to make decisions about things because you didn't complete the completion of stuff, and you're full of, what does the book say? Waste management of your mind?
Yes, that's right.
And you have to dump the trash.
Yeah,
that's right.
And you guys are giving me that gift right now. In holding some really powerful, loving space that it's not available on a daily basis at the grocery store, or in line to get gas, or wherever. And so I want to honor you and respect you and say thank you for your podcast, and for your having the courage to put it on the air and go international, global. Whoever listens to this, it's a gift that you guys are giving.
Oh, wow.
And you're allowing me to be here to be a contribution to it. And you're being a contribution to me and my heart and to little Charlie, Sir Charles Beagleman. And I appreciate it so much.
Wow. I feel like I should be saying the same things to you.
Agreed. Yeah.
There's no separation, though, between us. We're one, right?
Yeah. You're really helping me to heal, because like when my cat Ducky, we put him down.
I love that. Ducky is so
he's
cute.
the sweetest fellow. But then my wife and I were never on the same page about getting a cat at the same time, And I knew, and I kept talking to Ducky, just send us the right cat at the right time. And then, right when my son went to school, I've told the story before, we had coffee at Romeo Coffee in Berkeley that morning. I noticed Devonshire exit off the freeway on the way back, and that's the kind of cat Ducky was, a Devon Rex from the Devonshire.
Oh.
The next day, my wife got an email from this type of someone who had a Devon Rex named Romeo, and Romeo was the coffee shop we had coffee at that morning, and we went and saw all these cats, and there was a few that we liked. We went back the second time, sat in the car in the beginning, and before we went in. And I said, let's just set an intention that we will know what cat. So we went to the catio. We're standing out there. Romeo's not there. All the other cats are running around. Suddenly, Romeo comes to the back screen, and he scratches on the screen. They let him out, and he comes and he stands in front of me, and he sits down in front of me.
Wow.
And it was just like, and this cat has been so healing, and my wife and the cat are so close. It's just showing me that sometimes, and I've had death on my mind a lot lately. I don't know why. Lately I've been like, there's a part of me that's going, what's the use? Like, I'm going to have to say goodbye to people. Like, I've been feeling that. So I'm glad this is coming up because I don't know where it's been coming from, but I've just been like, what's the purpose of all this if it's like not, I think because of just my own stuff from like when my grandparents passed who I was close to, and just my dad's been in this, like his health is just like in an interesting place. And when I hear you talk and I think of my own experience, it helps me to see like there's a much larger thing happening. I even heard someone who came back from having died and came back, and they had this really uplifting story, but I think even that triggered some from my earthly perspective of like, but how? Like, well, how does that make me feel better? But what I'm seeing and listening to you talk is that my concept of love is rather small. It's not this truly eternal thing where just because I let go of Ducky, like I'm not always thinking about Ducky now. I think I'm loving Romeo. Ducky's still a part of my eternal love. Mm-hmm. My grandparents are one with me. Everyone that I've ever loved is one with me. And it's a much bigger timeline than I tend to associate with. I tend to think 49, my life's long, but there's a much more large. And when Ducky died, this is the last thing I'll say is that I recognized that all that love I had for Ducky had nowhere to go, and like, where does this go? It hurts so bad. And then I started to let it go everywhere. Like Ducky gave me the opportunity to love that much. He was like, he inspired that much love, and you know, as I healed, like you said, that love started to go everywhere, not just with Ducky. Like Ducky taught me more about loving, to share that love everywhere. And then Romeo came along, and I know that Ducky sent me. Like, you know what I mean? There's just so many gifts that have come from that.
But I venture to say that you probably are not actually acknowledging yourself for the amount of love that you actually give, because I've spoken to you briefly. I met you once prior before, and
right.
You know, you are an educator of children who are on another realm, another frequency, and the love that you have to have. People don't have patience for people that are on the spectrum, or like that love that you're doing is exponential because you're giving them the love and the freedom and the space to be and grow and learn.
Yeah.
So that they can have whatever life they're going to have, that they can grow and love and experience life and continue and pay it forward to a world that's probably not the most friendly to them. And that love is so big, and we don't acknowledge ourselves for the ripple effect of what it will 100%. Do. And you think, oh, it's a job. I'm a teacher.
Right.
I'm just, like, what do you do? I'm a teacher in, special education or whatever. And then you go on your merry little way. But it's just a label that everything gets lost in a wrapper of a label that is so much deeper than if you take the time, and if it's in meditation or if it's in conversation with the kind of people, or if you write, which I've been told I should write, and I don't seem to have the patience to sit down and write, but I know that it expands. Like I feel expanded. I feel there's freedom in knowing that there's expansion of like so much more to love to give. But I told you I was trying to reinvent I'm in and I'm in a new place of inventing myself and having a new chapter and a new life, and there's an expansion in it, and you got to kind of like break off that shell of like, this is who I am, this is what I do, and it gets solidified every time you tell somebody, here's what I do and here's who I am, and I'm like, oh, that's all I am, that's all I do, this is who I am. Is it good enough? Is it big enough? But it's in a moment, if you help somebody at the grocery store, you're that person that helped this old person at the grocery store that was like confused and lost, but that's so big, and we don't acknowledge ourselves, and we don't get acknowledged for that stuff unless you're generous enough to have people in your life that you could say, hey, you really make a difference in my life. And just like what Anastasia did for me yesterday, it was a beautiful day. I yelled at her. She's like, what do I do with my dog? And I'll do it. And she took the day off. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with your dog. I'm dealing with my dog. And she just like handled it. And then she came with me and she held the space. And then she took me. We went to a swimming pool and we just kind of laid in the sun, and then she, like I was sharing with you, and we had dinner and she brought me ice cream and she let me spend the night, and like that love is allowing me the healing space so I can go back in the world again and now figure out who I am, because I have a lot to contribute to the world and give, even if it's just in a conversation like I'm having with you guys.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're saying this, because I'm also like in a reinventing kind of place because it is missing. Like there's so much mechanical of me getting myself to go do this because of my job. I mean, because it's very difficult for me.
Well, the school system's also very like a box, right? Don't you have a limitation in what you can do?
There's very little emphasis put on the value of the stuff you just described that I actually do. And it's deadly, man. It's like...
Is that our time?
No, we're good. It just kind of gives us an indicator that we're getting...
That was my Hot Pocket. So.
It's the microwave.
Lunchtime.
Right. But this hearing you say that is helping me exactly know what I want to do to transform my life and maybe help transform other people's lives in the process, which is tap into it. Like, I don't go to work for a check. The check is amazing because I get to live where I live and all, but that's not what that's not what inspires me to go. It's all the things that you were just describing. I mean, and it's what I do is so different than what than a lot of the people I meet, because so much of what is out there is just so fear driven. It's so measure the kids by these fear-based. It's just and it's like. But
that's a programming that our environment has made that we fall into unless you wake up. Weren't you talking about Buddha?
Yeah,
saying I'm awake.
That's right.
And I was like, I want to be awake. That's what I want.
I want to be awake.
Like this dude right here who made this. He doesn't use a lot of words. Like when he communicates, I'm like when Stephen Tom Thorpe, our friend, came to he's like, how do you understand? But I intuitively connect with this guy so much, and he's so good at staying organized. He puts away all my stuff for me in the morning. He turns on the computer. He knows how things move. Like if you need something, he's right there. He before you even ask, he knows what you need. He's telling me where to get. Oh, you need a towel? It's there. And
he's like radar on the series
literally,
MASH.
Yeah, he's
like knows exactly.
And he's of service to you.
Yeah,
a lot of
and
service.
Too much of the time, he's looked at as like almost like sort of some novelty that everyone has to protect because he has this
or a freak
or all of that. And for me, I'm just like, this guy's freaking amazing. And the fact that I get to spend, and he's a human. At the end of the day, sometimes I'm like when my friends come by, like Darrell teaches art and Stephen did some stuff with a YouTube video he uploaded. They're huge fans of my friend Stephen Tom Thorpe's videos on Hollywood Minutes. He does videos about
movie locations in Culver City.
So we watch his 1 minute videos and then we go visit him.
How fun.
And then, so it's helping my class. Darrell does public art in, what's yours called?
Art in the City.
Art in the City. So we watch Darrell's. Then we go find the art. And when they come in, they're like, oh my God, it's a YouTuber, and, but what was I talking about? It helps me realize that, like, I don't even realize that Josue will speak in one word or whatever, and not even that is like most people can't even quite comprehend what the way it's articulated. But there's so much more being communicated between us that I get the whole thought without even it's incredible, man. Because he's a person. It's just that he's just an amazing person, and I get the divine opportunity to spend time with him. But what you're saying. It's true. Like sometimes it's just hard. I think Darrell goes through this too. Like my own brain has in the past been so conditioned with fear that it's hard for me to even access how much love is coming through me. Like when I'm not there later, the old comes in and it's like disconnects me. Like so what you're saying about and what you're talking about disconnection, man. Like that word's been coming up with a lot of things I've been listening to. It's all about the connection is there, but it's establishing the conscious connection with this divine experience while we're here and being able to live it because it feels so good and it's so simple
when you get it, and that's what's so precious. But you have to do the work to get there. You can't just you just can't be a zombie that just watches TV and eats Doritos all the time. I mean, I like Doritos. Don't get me wrong about the Doritos, but like you just have to do the work to open yourself up and be there.
Yeah. And what's tricky is the mind that needs the work will tell me what's the use of doing the work. It's not going to work.
But that's the thing. And you said we abuse ourselves. And that mind that you're talking about, we think, oh, my mind's doing this and I'm doing it to myself. But there's an external force that wants that to be the case.
Right.
I mean, this is a whole nother topic, but that wants that to be the case, that you stay in that mindset because it keeps you small and controlled.
Right.
Yeah.
and doing what they want, whether it's buy this product or
Yeah.
or work for this company
Of
or pay
course.
this tax or give me this
Yes.
money or
Yeah.
you know. So we also have to forgiveness. Like there's just so many angles of things I want to say. Like my brain's just
Right.
like
Yeah, well, we'll have you back on to say more. I mean,
Yeah.
it brings to mind what Jesus said, forgive them for they know not what they do. Even though they know what they're doing, they don't know what they're doing. Because when you were talking about denial, why I haven't liked denial in the past is people say I was in denial, but they say I was in denial of how bad I was. But then you have to take it another step further because I was in denial of my divinity. At the end of the day, it's the denial of our divinity and our
disconnected.
wonderfulness.
Disconnecting from it.
Yeah, and that
Disconnected.
disconnection with how darn wonderful we are. We end up making decisions like there's a problem and there's no problem. Like with our show, sometimes we think we got to do this. This thing is a global ministry. This is amazing that it is where it is. And sometimes we get caught up in our little voices that think it needs to be somewhere else. But if we just dummy down and go, no, it's perfect right now. I am perfect right now. And by doing that, I will see the right thing. I will connect and I will know what to do. But it comes through knowing how amazing we are, not by judging and critiquing and criticizing and all that. It comes through, there's nothing I got to fix. God's working through me right now, or the universe is working through me right now. And the sooner we get into that, the sooner we get the solutions.
You just reminded me of this overall, like whatever it is that wants to keep that fearful part of the mind going. It all boils down to the number one marketing strategy that has been used for centuries, and that's remind them of a problem they're not aware of, and then promise them the solution. Or sell them the solution is really the marketing way.
that's sick.
but
That's actually very demented to do that because you're creating a problem and then selling them the product that didn't even exist.
Making the person aware of a problem they didn't know they had, which is what the news does. Oh my God, I didn't know. Oh my God. And then promise and offer them the solution.
I gotta have it.
Yeah,
what's crazy,
or I gotta stick with these people. I gotta stick with this channel because they have the
answers.
They have the answer that's gonna help me.
And a lot
Which
of times,
disconnects you from here.
Yes.
well, this is why a meditative practice is so important. Also, because these same heads that are doing this are often, they know of unconscious fears that people have that they don't even realize they have, and they know how to. That's what Hitler did.
They pushed that button.
He stoked the flames of an anti-Jewish sentiment that was kind of buried. No, the people didn't even he made it, and that's what a lot of this fear-based marketing is, stoking fears and insecurities with a smile on the face of that's what con man is. It's to gain the confidence of somebody. That's where the word con comes from, gaining your confidence and then selling you something.
Yes.
And we don't want to do that. And the good news is we don't have to do that. Like there's a whole nother way, because it can be. That's why it's so important, because once, even no matter how many things are coming at us, when I have an intimate relationship with my own mind, that's where my liberation comes from. That's where my freedom comes from. That's what so many people who have been imprisoned found out, incarcerated or whatever. They often talk about it is once I gain control of my own mind and my own thinking, that's when I'm truly free.
Yeah, well, that's what Albert Schweitzer proved.
Yeah.
Well, he was in the concentration camps.
Oh, yeah. That was, what's his name? The doctor that wrote that book. What was that guy's name? Anyway, yeah, there's another guy another Jewish doctor that was and he wrote a great book. I forget his name right now. But, yeah.
So did we cover the topic of doubt?
Oh, we kicked it right out. I don't even remember it, so it worked. I am feeling so good after this show. The only thing I was looking for, there was something you just said at the end, and Ed was saying at the end, in this silly little book, Believe You Can, and I'll just paraphrase, and I just read it this morning, was we have so much information. We have so much information, like an abundance of information, and it was basically saying we need more revelation, because the over influx of information actually distracts us, keeps us disconnected from listening. We need more revelation and less information.
Correct. Yes.
Which would be like a social media break, period.
Yes,
just
period.
get off your phone.
Yeah.
Because you're just inputting. We were talking about images, programming.
Yes.
How are you supposed to overcome, what is it, like 15 seconds of something, 15 seconds of something, another, bam, 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 bam. And you don't even breathe. It's drowning us.
That's right. That's right. Viktor Frankl is the guy.
Viktor Frankl.
And then when you say revelation, it means reveal.
Yes.
Reveal. So we're revealing who we are. That's the connection we're talking about. We just need to reveal to ourselves who we really are. Revelation. And I do 10 minutes a day of affirmations with my students. It's life-changing. I just started doing it last summer just because it was on the list of things that the teacher had left that I could do in the summer program. You do that for 4 weeks and you realize how often in any public school is there 10 minutes of purely positive thoughts happening. And the kids love it. They love it.
Because they feel it. Because they feel they're so connected to how they feel more than how they think.
And together, too, right? Because they're doing something together.
Yeah, because
as one.
It's deconstructing this idea that it's somehow arrogant to think positively about ourselves. Like, because that's often what's modeled. It's like some form of like competitive arrogance. That's why I'm the best, But this is how often are we intimate enough or whatever, open enough, revealing enough to be like, I am safe. I am abundant. The answers I seek are inside of me. And that's what we do together every day. And it's been transformative. So,
well,
doubt not with Beth Porter. Anything else to throw in
before
we go?
I hope you come back again.
I know you guys are a delight. I would love to. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll have you back.
And I actually coming in here, I was like down, but like you guys brought such a big opening that like I feel so open, and for me to be able to contribute too, you opened me up. It's like you were the sunshine on the flower that was like, let it bloom today, and I appreciate that, and it's just it's good stuff. Wasn't there a song?
Yeah, we'll
get there.
But I want to thank you too, because I know there are a lot of listeners that feel the same way I felt during the show listening to you, that are probably going to write us and comment and say, "Oh, I'm so glad Beth shared that. I felt that way," or "I'm going through that now."
Guaranteed.
That's
so
nice.
This was awesome.
That's nice. And it reminds me that I make a difference and I matter and I have stuff to contribute to people that, it may not pay like $1 million, but it like exponentially moves the world forward. And you were saying, why are we here? The death and the whatever. We're here for this experience for as long as we are. Like, that's the answer. Yeah. We're here from the moment we're born to the moment we die to bring what we bring, and this is your chance to show it. And you have that many years to do it, and that's it. Like, that's all it is. It's an experience because we got to take our spirit and have it be in this human form to see what we're going to do about it, and that's all you get to do. And if you choose just to enjoy the flowers, or you choose to be a jerk, or you choose to be a millionaire, or you choose to have a podcast, whatever. That's perfect.
Yeah, we're like this living prism, right? The light shines through us and boom, shines a rainbow out onto the world while we're here. Wow, that's great. That's great. Yeah, and you're bold and powerful. I mean, there's a lot of people that we communicate with that will say, I can't do the show because of the very things. So the fact that you chose to come is really bold and shows that, talking to you is proof. Like, we could tell that you're in touch with this same living wisdom, the same living truth. That's what Jesus in the Bible, my understanding, called the living water, the well within us. Like, when we drink from that, that's when we are truly nourished and blessed, and that's what everyone is looking for.
Good.
Yep, that's what Okay, so we got a joke. Normally we do a joke about a guest, but today I just found a joke that I thought you might enjoy.
Okay.
So it's a little different. But a man arrived at the gates of heaven, apparently, and St. Peter asked him, "Religion?" The man says, "Seek." St. Peter looks down his list and says, "Go to room 24, but be very quiet as you..." Oh, sorry. What did he say? What did St. Peter say?
He said, "Go to room 24, but be very quiet as you pass room 8.
So another man arrives at the gates of heaven.
"Religion?"
"Buddhism."
"Go to room 18, but be very quiet as you pass room 8.
A third man arrives at the gate.
"Religion?"
"Hipsterian New Age thingy."
"Go to room 11, but be very quiet as you pass room 8.
Man says, I can understand there being different rooms for different religions, but why must I be quiet when I pass room 8? St. Peter tells him.
Well, the Christians are in room 8, and they think they're the only ones here. On that note, do you believe in magic, Ed?
You know, I could use a loving spoonful of it right about now. You ready?
Do you believe in magic in a young girl's heart? How the music can free her whenever it starts, and it's magic. If your music is groovy, it makes you feel happy like an old-time movie. I'll tell you about the magic and it'll free your soul. But it's like trying to tell a stranger about rock and roll. Visit Darrell and Ed.
Beth Porter, we love you.
To find easy links to everything we do. And thank you for being a part of Funniest Thing
If
with
you
Darrell and
believe
Ed.
in magic, don't bother to choose if it's jug band music or rhythm and blues. Just go and listen. It'll start with a smile that won't wipe off your face no matter how hard you try. Your feet start tapping and you can't seem to find how you got there, so just blow your mind.
Yay!
$500.
Really?
See, $200 for you, sir.
$100 for you.
What the heck? No.
$100 for you. No way. Are you serious? Yeah, I'll give you $100. Of course. Thank you so much.
When you record your podcast at CHOBO Studios, you're helping people in need. Here at CHOBO, we take a bold stance on helping the community by giving away 10% of all revenue, not just profit, to kind, hardworking people in the streets of Los Angeles. And thanks to all these wonderful podcasters, we've been able to give $1,400 this year alone through our kindness initiative, CHOBO Kindness. Brought to you by CHOBO Studios, LA's premier podcasting powerhouse. Follow for more.